In this video, I'm going to run through the 12 things that you should remove from your landing page immediately in order to increase your conversion rate. So let's jump straight into it. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be running through this landing page template, which we've curated just to illustrate a few of the points that I'm going to go into. If you want to use this template and just, go and populate it with your own images in the background and your own text, feel free to do so, and I'll link to that in the section below. The first thing you want to look to remove straight away from your performance landing page, especially if you're sending it from paid search such as Google ads or Bing ads, is your menu and navigation at the top. What we've typically found, if you look at any heat map software, is that someone lands on a page and they'll immediately go to something like the About Us page, for example. And then when they go in the About Us page, they kind of get lost in the rest of your website. There is no real directives throughout it because they're just looking around at blogs and whatever else they come across, and they probably lose, sense of what they're doing on the site and why they came there in the first place. So to keep them on track, we remove the navigation. If they want to click back to the site, they can click on the home button here. But what we want to remove is something called choice overload. And the more choices that we give someone to make, the less likely it is they're going to take the option and the choice that we as a business would like them to make, which is obviously going to be getting in contact with the business in this case. So we want to make sure we remove that. Give them a very clear path to what it is we want them to achieve, especially if it's coming from performance media. In a very similar vein, you want to make sure you have no social icons at the top. It's something that we see quite a lot, so you want to remove those immediately. These icons and the colors and their design have been created, and hundreds of millions of pounds has been spent on designing these things to generate dopamine from the user to get them to click on it, because that's how these websites, the biggest companies in the world, generate revenue. So if your landing page and your call to action button and everything else in your website is competing with these icons that people are so used to going onto, then it's going to be very, very unlikely that they're going to stay on your site. Again, just like the About Us section, they're going to jump off onto one of your social platforms where they feel highly comfortable and spend a lot of their time. Third thing you want to remove is a static headline. Again, if you're sending it from performance media sources, for example, you normally see one headline which is being used across all of the different ad campaigns. Now, what you can do in the likes of Unbounce and other landing page builders, and even websites if done properly, is you can create dynamic headers. So say, for example, we want to change the what you do section here, and it's, someone's looking specifically for HR software. We can change at the top, do a query string which says HR or software, which is the variable, equals HR software. And we can pull that from UTMs or whatever it is the campaign that we're directing it from. We can dynamically change that to make it more aligned and relevant to what the user is searching for. So make sure that if you're sending it from a campaign, make sure it's aligned using dynamic headers. You haven't got it anymore, just use the same header for every single different campaign that you're sending to your website. The next thing, staying on this hero image, is around those slideshows. You probably see all the time when you go onto someone's website or landing page and it's a slideshow and it's different headers and it's different images each time, and you kind of start reading to the end of it and then it flicks and then it flicks again, and you kind of lose the messaging and what it's about. It makes everything harder from a user experience, and it's just quite an old school thing to do. So make sure you just remove any sliders and just make sure you have one static header, but use dynamic text on top of that static header. The next thing you want to remove is just copy that just says benefits and doesn't mention features or how actually you go about fulfilling those benefits. It's so common now that we go onto people's websites and they're like, make more money with this software, and they don't tell you about any of the features or any of the actual things that they deliver or their USPs that actually show you how you get these benefits. So it kind of loses all meaning. You want to give that feedback loop of actually how you can offer your features, your approach, which are actually going to help you reach and plug those benefits. Otherwise, there's going to be a dissonance between the consumers not actually going to believe that these benefits are possible. The next one, and the final one before we go below the fold, is all around having a vague call to action. So you want to make sure you remove anything vague, and what we see typically is words like submit. And when you use a word like submit, someone's filling out their details, they don't know what they're submitting to. It's actually quite a strange word if you think about it. But if you have things like, get a quote as a very bare minimum, it actually gives a bit of direction of what's going to happen the other side of this form fill. So make sure that you know exactly what's going to happen, create that transparency, and create it like, that's why people prefer Ubers to taxis, because they know what happens after they book an Uber. They can actually see the process and they actually know what's going on in the background. With taxis, it could be absolutely anywhere. It may not be coming. So ultimately, it's going to be more of a warning signal that they don't want to get involved. And a little bonus section is if you go a bit further down, it actually lists out next steps. So what are the 3 next steps that actually happen to actually start working with the company if they do fill out the form? What is the process? Shed some light on it. Moving below the fold, and one thing again that we really want to remove from your website is vague testimonials. And by a vague testimonial, I mean you've probably gone onto someone's website and their testimonial is, from a person that they've worked with, which says these guys are great, or couldn't recommend more enough, like couldn't recommend any more. And that is, they're nice things to say, but it's a really wasted bit of real estate, and it gives no context to the problem that they actually solve for that persona. So instead, you want to make sure that your testimonial should be used to position your product to your target audience using words straight from their mouth. So for example, if we're a PPC agency, for example, or an SEO agency or a B2B marketing agency, we don't want to just say a testimonial like these guys are super great and they're responsive and timely and get things done, because that means nothing from a first touch point from a customer side of things. Instead, we could have a thing saying, from a B2B marketing manager at a relevant company to the persona looking at our page, we could say, our agency has helped our company hit our quarterly pipeline 4 months running. And that's a really strong benefit and a really strong way to actually frame and position these testimonials from the words of mouth of your customers to actually show how you can help them, not just that they actually vouch for us being good people and good at what we do. So use this space wisely. The next bit is all around removing big blocks of copy from your landing pages. There's been studies done that have shown people get the gist of what you're saying with between 8 to 16 words. Now, the amount of times I've gone onto landing pages or websites, there's a whole block of copy, and even if I'm interested, I kind of can't really get my brain to engage with what's going on. Keep it short, keep it succinct, and keep it to the point. You'll be surprised how much you can actually give to people when you cut away all the words which mean absolutely nothing and try and drivel on in a way in which you think people care about, when actually it's just self-fulfilling your ego and how much you love about your product or service, which no one else cares about. The next thing you want to remove, which is actually something that I'm guilty of all the time, especially if you do it for YouTube, is actually having at the end of your video actually then linking off to all these other websites, for example, not websites, all these other videos. So you can see here that on our own website, we're actually going to start driving traffic to other people's websites in themselves. Now, YouTube used to have a way that you could remove this, but they've actually taken that away. I imagine it's because they want them to go back to YouTube on people's embedded sites. So you can use things like Vimeo or other, players which allow you to take away this final screen, which means people are going to spend more time on your site and again, not get distracted by, a whatever video that they want to go onto and watch next, and not actually look to buy your product or service. The next one is having too many calls to action. So you can see here, my call to action here is aligned to the call to action at the top. The last thing you want to do is have like 3 or 4 different options, again, making it really hard for them to choose what the best option is for them. Make it really seamless and make it as easy as possible for that person to know the direction they should be going in. The next one, and again, something that I've been guilty of quite a lot, is writing non-specific FAQs, or just FAQs that you come up with in the top of your head because you think there should be an FAQ section. And you use it as a way just to promote your product more than actually physically try and mitigate potential questions that the users may have. If done really well, you can actually start objection handling what people, questions they may have, and actually help to aid the sale if you have genuinely insightful FAQs. You can get these from your CRM, from what questions people are most commonly asking when you go through the pitch process, what do people actually care about, and over time you'll get a bank of really insightful feedback loop questions which will help you pad out these FAQ sections so you can stay on top of them. Don't think about it as a one-time one and done. It's going to be something which you can update all the time and actually keep up to date with what people actually care about when finding out with your product or service. And it really, really does come in handy. Again, if you are using heat map software, you're actually able to go and see which one of these drop downs that people are engaging with the most, which actually can help you work out what you can then go and prioritize further up the landing page. So just make sure you remove just general FAQs and just getting it done, and just because you feel like you're trying to sell in there more and it's questions no one really cares about. And the final one, and again, I haven't done it on this page, if you go get quote, this just has what we call a little Ajax pop-up. I would say try and remove this completely. And in the template, which I've linked to below, you can actually, rather than having an Ajax pop-up, complete submission, it actually can be referred onto a thank you page. And we'd much farther from a tracking perspective and a user experience perspective, remove these Ajax forms. They're also, a bit harder to track. I have actually created a full video on them, on how you can do so, because it's quite common with CSS selectors. But if you want to make sure that it goes to a new thank you page, really good to have, extra resources on there, what's going to happen next, any, thing that they're going to find useful, as well as making it easier to track and for remarketing audiences across different platforms. Okay, so those are the 12 things which I think you should remove from your landing page immediately in order to get a better conversion rate. Any questions, guys, please don't hesitate to ask. And if you'd like to go and look more detail in this template and actually, find out how you can physically go and use this template, all of the sliders, the FAQ sections, the form and everything else, here's the video up here. And I hope you have a great week and speak to you guys very, very soon.